What's up, Change the Channel podcast listeners? My name is Megan Grace, and I'm so excited to be with you again. I am your host of Change the Channel podcast. Welcome back. So, in all transparency, I'm really on one today. I am integrating so many things. This weekend was packed full of learning, of community, of training. Shout out to continuing to doing training and learning about leadership and personal development. I feel like all of that is so important. So I'm coming back to you live with that, just fresh off the weekend energy. So one of my takeaways, one of the things that was really moving to me this weekend came at the end of our training. So at the end of our trainings, this group of individuals that I've been going through this process with, we were on the fourth weekend of 5. So we really know each other pretty well. And I love these people like none other. They're such an incredible group of people. I feel beyond blessed every time I'm in their presence, to the point where every time I'm surprised again by how amazing they are. I'm like, man, again? I haven't reached the end of this. It's beautiful to be surprised by people in that way. So my story comes from the end of our weekend, after we're done doing, a bunch of work and growing and witnessing each other in their growth and asking a lot of questions. A couple of the people in our group host us over for dinner and hanging out afterwards. So we were at their beautiful apartment. That's just to give you a bit of a visual. It's in Austin, on the 55th floor, this building that overlooks the river. There's all these windows, so you get to see sunsets. The vibe is amazing because, we're with a group of some of our favorite people. And I was just in it. I was enjoying the conversations, all this stuff. And my friend that lets me crash at his place whenever I go for these trainings was like, hey, I've got to work tomorrow. I'm about to roll out a little bit early. And so, like this group does, there was a couple of people that were like, yeah, we totally got you. We can totally get you home. No problem. So we finished up the night, and per usual, there was generosity when it came to making sure that I got home. And I got back to my friend's place, and there was some miscommunication, which happens. He has a couple of roommates, that kind of thing, and one of them had locked the door. And so it was about 1 a.m, and I was like, oh shit, well, what am I going to do now? And in that moment, the channels that started in my head were, you've already put someone out to have you drive over here. You don't want to be disruptive. You don't want to wake up anybody in the house. You're already a guest. You've already, people have already given you things. Once you're in a space where people have given you things, you can't ask for anything extra. Sound familiar? Does this run in anyone else's head, or is this just mine? And then it was the feeling of, well, could I just sleep outside? I mean, it's not the worst day. All that self-sufficiency stuff came up of just don't be visible, don't have needs, just deal with it. And thankfully, my higher self kicked in and said, this team cares about you. This team loves you. You get to reach out to people. You to let people know where you're at. And so in that moment, I called back one of the people in the car that had dropped me off and just said, hey, is there any way you could roll back through? And without hesitation, he was like, sure, en route, no problem. All this trepidation I had inside of me of, ooh, they're going to be annoyed. I'm being a problem. I should be able to figure this out myself. And none of it, like none of that came through from him. So got back in the car, and then it was the whole thing of, well, okay, like we all get to come up with a plan on the fly. And so I was sitting there, and again, the channel started. This is your problem. It's nobody else's problem. So you get to figure it out. You get to do it by yourself. Make sure you do it in a way that doesn't inconvenience or put anybody else out. But instead, the thing that was fascinating is that I didn't change my channel. It was the care of my friends and the ways that they showed up for me that changed my channel. My buddy, the one that I called, was like, okay, like here, you can crash with the driver. We can loop around this way. It'll be fine. And then in that moment, they were like, okay, yeah, that'll work. They said, well, there's a cat. And again, the channel started in my head. I'm allergic to cats. And I'm thinking, man, I have just gone from the most easygoing, chill, self-sufficient individual to the most needy, the person that has the most qualifications like things that just needed to be fixed. And I was like almost crawling out of my skin thinking, that's fine. I'll just be a little puffy the next day. Like we'll figure it out. But instead, I interrupted that thought and I looked around me and said, I'm going to put some faith in these people. I'm going to trust the people in my life. And I just shared with them, well, I am allergic to cats. I don't really know. And so then the same friend goes, well, that's great. You can just crash where I was crashing and I'll roll to this other place. It's super easy. And it actually works out great because I've been wanting to connect with this other person too. And so in that moment, by me not holding my needs in, not assuming that all of it needed to be on my shoulders, it was almost like my buddy had won the lottery because now he was getting to spend time with this other person as well. And I ended up having this super comfortable, like very cozy, wonderful place to stay that actually by the next day afforded me the opportunity of having coffee with another person in my group that I hadn't really been able to have a lot of FaceTime with, but I just have a ton of respect for him. It was his house, and we got to like start the day with coffee and conversation and checking in. And so I feel like my life is more enriched because I got to spend time with him. And then another one of our group was staying there too. And she's another incredible woman that just because of the nature of all the things we were doing, I just hadn't had a chance to sit down and really talk to her a lot face to face either. And oh my gosh, we got to have breakfast together. We went on a walk together. The conversation was just flowing and my heart was full, just overflowing with how blessed I was that this day was nothing that I had planned. It started by accident, by literally everybody involved, and it rolled into exactly what I needed and exactly what I didn't know to ask for. And so then, keeping with the things, I was like, it's not going to be a Change the Channel podcast episode if the airport doesn't come up. So this was the day where I was about to fly back to Portland, and that channel came back up in my head again. Oh, just get an Uber. You can do it yourself. You don't want to put anybody out. Blah, blah, blah. My gosh. Is that self-sufficient channel and fear of being too much channel not so loud in anyone else's ears? That one is kind of my default. And so instead, I leaned into another team member and was like, maybe I'll ask him if he wants to drop me off. And immediately he was like, sure, yeah, let me just move a couple things around. This will be great. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my least favorite words in the English language are I have to move things around. But he assured me yet again that this was going to be actually really special for both of us because we were going to get to spend time together. And then, lo and behold, I get a little text message that says, your flight has been delayed. Oh my gosh, then the messages started again. Well, now you have another thing you've got to bring up. But this is this. And like, I really should have known that this was the lesson for the day and that I got to practice changing the channel, because this is a deep, deep one. It's a deep channel that I get to work on. And so I called my friend and I go, hey, anyway, the flights kind of changed a little bit, but please don't feel obligated at all to do anything different. And he goes, would it be okay if I just stopped you for just a second? Kindest, sweetest way. He goes, you're taking yourself out before you're even telling me what the problem is or what we're trying to solve for. You've already decided that it's not going to work. And he goes, what if you asked me and what if I got to tell you whether it worked or whether it didn't? Like mind blown. I was thinking, how many other times in my life do I take my own self out before even offering other people an opportunity to be a part of what's going on? And so I told him the time. He goes, oh yeah, no, that works out even better. I had this other thing I was going to do. I was going to go scoop up another person from our team. And so by me not sitting in my I'm self-sufficient, I don't want to put anybody else out. It's too late. And once I've already asked for one thing, that's my quota for the day. When I put those aside, I got to have connections with probably 7 different people in different ways that I would not have if I was just sitting all by myself, figuring things out by myself. It was ridiculous. All of it's ridiculous. And I just keep thinking, how many times has this self-sufficient channel taken me out? And how many more times of the people in my life showing up for me in profound, beautiful acts of service and love and connection is it going to take for this channel to not be the default? And that gets to be up to me, right? I get to be the one that chooses that leans into relationship, that is grateful and joy-filled and loving and open-hearted, because there's moments when I get to be the one that's part of the solution. And there's also moments, like my friend said in the car, right as they were dropping me off at the place I was going to be staying for the night, he goes, you know what, Megan? Sometimes you get to be supported too, because this is definitely a thing that I say to people. And I just am sitting with that. I'm feeling so much gratefulness, all the generosity, and what happens when we actually open ourselves up to deep connection with people in the form of asking for the things that we need. Yeah. So I'm sitting with that one. I also have mad, deep love and respect for all of these friends that showed up for me in these ways. And friends, think for just a minute. Take a big, deep breath. Close your eyes and sit with for a second. Who is it in your life that you would rather be self-sufficient around than connected deeply with? Who gets the message that you are fine, that you don't need anything? And in an effort for you to need less things and to be, less for somebody to navigate around, do they know who you are? Are you missing out on coffee in the morning with a new friend, or a walk by the river, or an airport delivery by a friend that you just wanted a little bit of extra time with? What does it cost when we decide that we are self-sufficient beings in a world that is meant to be a collective community of love and leaders that get to lead together, supporting each other with a vision moving forward of care and support, where when one person is tired, where one person needs a little bit of extra care, where one person's plans got changed around for whatever reason, that they're not left with an empty cup, that our vision is something where all of us are pouring into. So some days, if I have stuff in my cup, I get to pour into it. But if my cup is empty, I have other people that are, number one, feeding the vision that we're working towards together, and also are able to pour into my cup as well. We get to be supported. As leaders, we get to be supported. As friends, we get to be connected. As humans, we get to be seen. And as humans, we also get to have needs, and we get to fulfill needs of others too. So with that, go forth, open your eyes, be imagining the people in your life that you are committed to changing the channel about self-sufficiency around and leaning into connection and community. I'm so excited to hear what shows up for you. And with that, it's another episode of Change the Channel podcast.